What's going on, guys? B Scott here with you, and on today's show, we got your wide receiver sit starts heading in to week number 10. I'm going to rattle off a lot of the must-start wide receivers, and then I'm going to talk about guys that I think you should be having in your lineups this week, and then guys that would potentially be sitting. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first four downs. What's going on, guys, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going through your wide receiver sit starts heading in to week number 10. So obviously I'm going to rattle off the must starts. Then I got guys you should be starting and guys you should be sitting. But before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all the good stuff, and then comment. If there's a receiver I didn't mention, because I'm not going to mention all of them, especially wide receivers, there's a ton of them, drop in the comment section, and I'll be glad to give you my advice. Start, sit, flex, this guy over that guy, pick two, pick three, whatever you want to do, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my opinion. So let's dive right into the must-start wide receivers. Let's start at the top. Cooper Kupp, the San Francisco 49ers, been outstanding on the season, clear and far away the number one wide receiver. You're never sitting him on any given week. Tyreek Hill, same situation. He's still the number two receiver, even though he's had a lot of duds. But when he's boomed, he's one of your week. So at the Las Vegas Raiders, you're starting Tyreek Hill. Marquise Brown, been great on the season. Only two bad games in which he didn't get a touchdown. He's had touchdowns in every other game. Playing at the Miami Dolphins, good spot for him. You're starting him. Devontae Adams, you're playing him. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers is back. He's going to be good. Playing the Seattle Seahawks, of course, must start. DK Metcalf at the Green Bay Packers, still been productive to an extent, even with Geno Smith. So DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson looking to come back. Good spot here. Mike Evans at the Washington Football Team, absolute smash spot. You want these receivers. Worst secondary in the league. So Mike Evans and Godwin, both must starts. Michael Pittman Jr., playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, looking like a top 15 receiver from here on out. Played great over the last couple weeks. You got to get him in your lineups every single week. In my opinion, he's a must-start player on a weekly basis. Keenan Allen, playing the Minnesota Vikings, a good spot here. Minnesota gives us a lot of fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen has played very consistently throughout this season, so he's a must-start. Terry McLaurin, playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that secondary is getting healthier, and the defense as a whole is getting better. But it's Terry McLaurin. He's played very well. He's seeing a lion's share of the targets. You got to be starting Terry McLaurin on a weekly basis. Stephon Diggs at the New York Jets. It's the Jets, man. You got to start Stephon Diggs. They're huge favorites in this game. You got to believe that Buffalo's going to get it going at some point. I think it starts with Diggs. So Diggs, you got to get him in your lineups. And then CeeDee Lamb's going to round out my must-starts at the Atlanta Falcons, or at home to the Atlanta Falcons. A bounce back here for the Dallas Cowboys offense. So get CeeDee Lamb in your lineup. Now on to some must-start wide receivers, guys that I think you should be having in your lineups, especially this week. I'm going to start with Mike Williams, playing the Minnesota Vikings. Now, yes, Mike Williams over the last 3 weeks has been awful. Just plain and simple. 3 straight games with five targets and just 2 receptions. Not good numbers. But the Minnesota Vikings give up the 7th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, and they've allowed 10 different wide receivers a touchdown on the season. And Mike Williams has top 5 upside at the wide receiver position. You know it. He's been very volatile this year and in years past. But this year we were hoping with the hot start that he would be able to sustain his production. It's looking like he's turning back to that boom bust player that you're going to have to be flying out there on a weekly basis. I like him this week to bounce back, have a big day. Minnesota secondary just not that good. So Mike Williams, get him in your starting lineups. I know he let down over the last couple weeks. Had him as a sit last week, tough matchup, and he did it for you. But I think he bounces back in a big way this week. So next guy, Marvin Jones, playing the Indianapolis Colts. Marvin Jones has really been on that sit list the last couple weeks, had some tough matchups. 5 targets, 3 catches, just 21 yards against the Buffalo Bills last week. Very, very tough matchup. Buffalo give up the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, so I don't like any right receivers really against Buffalo. But they're playing the Indianapolis Colts. 4th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. The most touchdowns on the season at 15 to wide receivers. And the game script. I mean, think about the game. Indianapolis Colts probably going to be up in this game. Now, yes, Jacksonville played a great game last week against a tough Buffalo Bills team and pulled out a really good victory. But now they're on the road against the Colts, the Colts are red hot as they can be in the NFL at this moment, and playing very, very well, sound football. They could be down in this game. They could need to throw from behind to come back. Carlos Hyde might be starting once again. James Robinson dealing with some injuries, so we'll have to wait and see there. But I like Marvin Jones to bounce back here. He had 100 yards and a touchdown just before the bye week. Had come out, had a couple tough games. I like him as a start. Potential bounce back for Marvin Jones. So get him in your lineups as a flex type option if you're looking for a receiver to fill that, this week. So another guy that I like, Brandon Ayuk, playing the Los Angeles Rams. 8 targets, 6 catches, 89 yards and a touchdown. That's Brandon Ayuk's number line just last week against the Arizona Cardinals and coming into this week. Now back-to-back weeks where Brandon Ayuk's played close to 90% of snaps. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle are healthy. That's just going to help Brandon Ayuk, especially against the Rams secondary that is really They got Ramsey. Ramsey's probably going to see a lot of Deebo Samuel, maybe a little Kittle, probably see Brandon Ayuk a little bit too. But I like Brandon Ayuk this week in a matchup in which there could be the negative game script. The Niners could be needing to throw the football because the defense is so bad. It's a divisional matchup, and I like Brandon Ayuk going forward as a potential wide receiver 2-3 option just on the rest of the season based on the injuries of the San Francisco 49ers, the defense being so bad, and them needing to throw in a lot of these game scripts. So for me, Brandon Ayuk is a good sneaky start this week. My last wide receiver start, Jaylen Waddle, playing the Baltimore Ravens. Now, it's not necessarily a great matchup. Baltimore's bottom 10 against the wide receiver position, but Jaylen Waddle seeing so many targets, it's hard to deny it. 8+ targets in 4 straight games. He's cleared 70 yards in 3 of those 4 games and 7+ receptions in 3 of those 4 games. That's huge volume, especially in full PPR. You got to be getting Jaylen Waddle in your lineups, even with Jacoby Brissett. I get it. It's Thursday night. It's going to be a quick turnaround, and Jacoby Brissett probably will be the quarterback. Tua looking like game time decision. He's probably going to miss, and they're going to give him the extra time off. I don't see the Dolphins hanging with the Ravens in this game, but I like Waddle once again to see probably 10+ targets. So just the volume based alone, you got to be starting Jaylen Waddle this week. Now on to some sits, some wide receivers I think you should be sitting heading into week number 10. First off, I'm going to start the list with Courtland Sutton. Honestly, with Jerry Jeudy back, his production has just literally decreased target share every single week. I don't love the matchup against Philadelphia Eagles. Darius Slay on the outside, that's where Courtland Sutton lines up 90% of the time, I want to say. Philadelphia give up the 4th fewest fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Like I mentioned, Courtland Sutton's targets decreased. Just 2 targets last week, 1 catch for 9 yards in a blowout win. I get it. They ran all over the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't love Sutton's production here. Like I said, his targets have decreased. Jerry Jeudy back, just 11 targets over his last 3 games, and the matchup smells sit for Courtland Sutton. So for me, I'm sitting Courtland Sutton this week. I just can't trust his production, and really it's fallen off, especially with Jeudy coming back and them trying to establish the run on every single given week. So Courtland Sutton is a sit for me this week. Another guy, Elijah Moore, playing the Buffalo Bills. Honestly, a great line. 8 targets, 7 catches, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns in some garbage time against the Colts. But hey, you'll take it as a fantasy manager. The problem is, Corey Davis. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be active and playing? Then you got Mike White. Is he going to be ready to go? So that's going to help Elijah Moore. And then on top of that, Buffalo's allowed just 2 touchdowns to the wide receiver position, the fewest yards, and even in negative game script. I don't love the matchup because Buffalo just does not give up garbage time points no matter what. They just don't. They don't allow it. They lost last week to Jacksonville, but still didn't allow them a touchdown. So I don't love the matchup here, and Elijah Moore, I think, is just a sit for me this week. Devontae Smith, I'm going to have him as a sit again. He turned it around last week on me and had a great week against a banged-up Chargers secondary. But this week, going against the Denver Broncos, Denver hasn't allowed a wide receiver over 70 yards in the last 3 games. It's a tough matchup altogether. That secondary is pretty good. Now, yes, Patrick Surtain is dealing with a little bit of a knee injury. I would have loved to see that matchup, teammates facing each other in a game. That would have been great. But we're not going to be able to see it. I still think the secondary of Denver is very, very good. And Devontae Smith, his share of targets is decent, but Jalen Hurts, has not had to throw the ball that much. So coming into this week, I don't know if necessarily he's going to see a big target share. His volume hasn't been huge. Just 6 targets last week, 5 catches, 116 yards and a touchdown. And it's looking like the Eagles are looking to establish the run early and often because I think that's opening up that offense and being more efficient. So Devontae Smith is a sit for me this week. Once again, I get it. He had a bounce back week, big week last week, but I just don't trust his production going forward. And this matchup in particular is a little tough. So for me, I would be sitting Devontae Smith if you have some more safe options. And then my last sit, DJ Moore. You're probably not sitting him just because of the volume, I understand. But he has not been good over the last 4 weeks playing the Arizona Cardinals. A pretty tough matchup. Not hard, but not great. 7 targets, 3 catches for 32 yards. That's all he had last week. Has not cleared 73 yards in his last 5 weeks. No touchdowns. No Sam Darnold. PJ Walker. Does that make a difference here? I'm not so sure. But I'll tell you right now, I don't love DJ Moore's production. He hasn't been finding the end zone. Arizona giving up 12 touchdowns to the wide receiver position. That's tied for the second most. But DJ Moore hasn't found the end zone in weeks. So it would take a touchdown for me to justify his production. I don't see him having these huge numbers of yards. So I don't love DJ Moore this week. I get it if you got to probably start him anyway as your wide receiver 2 or 3. Maybe he's your flex and that'd be great. But I'd be looking elsewhere for some potential boom players other than DJ Moore this week. Just a tough matchup. So that's it. That's my wide receiver sit starts heading in to week number 10. So Once again, like the video, subscribe, share a thumb bell, and then comment if there's a receiver I didn't mention, because there's a ton of receivers I didn't mention. Drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my advice on start, sit, 2 over 3, whatever you want, flex options, anything you're asking for, I'll be glad to give you my advice. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott, and I'm out.